What happens when the safest skies turn into a graveyard? When a plane disappears, not from radar, but from reality? This is the chilling mystery of Flight 319, a commercial jet that lifted off from Singapore's Changi Airport on a calm night and returned carrying something no one could explain. The routine flight. It was 9:47 p.m. at Changi Airport, humid, calm, and unnervingly quiet for a Friday night. The crew performed their usual checks, the passengers boarded, and the aircraft waited like a sleeping giant on the runway, its lights blinking rhythmically against the mist. In the cockpit, the captain reviewed the checklist, calm and precise. The co-pilot scanned the instruments, sipping black coffee to shake off the exhaustion of back-to-back flights. "Looks clear ahead," he muttered. "Smooth night. Let's keep it that way," the captain replied, his tone steady. But a faint whisper, just a flicker through the intercom, interrupted the silence. Not static, not a glitch, a voice. It came and went too quickly to catch words. The co-pilot frowned but said nothing. At 9:58 p.m., Flight 319 began its roll down the runway. Engines screamed to life. The aircraft lifted gracefully into the thick Singaporean clouds and vanished from every witness on the ground. The empty seat. As the cabin settled into darkness, soft lights illuminated the aisles. An attendant made her way through, checking belts and passengers. Families were asleep. A businessman snored quietly. A child watched cartoons on a tablet. Everything seemed ordinary until she reached seat 14A. It was empty, but the manifest clearly showed it was taken. Checked in, boarded. Strange, she whispered, glancing around. Maybe someone switched seats. She adjusted the pillow on the seat and turned to leave. Then, click, the sound of a seatbelt fastening itself. The metal buckle lay flat and secure, tight, as if an invisible passenger had just settled in. She froze. A cold breeze brushed past her neck. The air suddenly grew heavy. For a moment, she thought she saw a reflection in the window beside 14A. A faint human shape. But when she blinked, it was gone. The static in the sky. At 36,000 feet, the cockpit was bathed in a dim blue glow from the instrument panels. The attendant forced a smile, but her hands shook. As she turned to leave, turbulence struck. Drinks spilled, passengers screamed. But this wasn't normal turbulence. It came in waves, each one stronger, as if something was pulling the aircraft downward. Luggage shifted. The lights dimmed. Then came the unmistakable sound, a knock from beneath the floorboards. Lost between worlds, the co-pilot attempted to call air traffic control. "Singapore Control, this is Flight 319 requesting position verification." Nothing, just static. Then faintly, through the white noise, voice, "You shouldn't be here." Everything seemed fine until the co-pilot noticed something strange. The radar was glitching. Patches of static shimmered across the screen. "Captain, I'm getting interference ahead." The captain leaned in. "No storms in the forecast. Might be transmission overlap." Then the radio crackled violently. A distorted voice burst through the static. "Voice, 319, turn back." The cockpit went silent. The co-pilot turned pale. "That voice, it sounded like you." The captain's eyes narrowed. "Enough, it's a feedback error. Keep focus." But his trembling hand betrayed him. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly, though the weather radar still showed clear skies. Disturbance in the cabin. Back in the cabin, passengers were growing uneasy. The temperature had dropped sharply. Breath fogged up the windows. A baby cried endlessly, clawing at the air as if reaching for something unseen. An older man pressed the call button. When the attendant arrived, his voice shook. "I saw someone outside, on the wing." "Sir, that's impossible." He was staring in, pale face, no eyes. The co-pilot looked at the navigation display, but it had gone completely dark. The map vanished, replaced by a void of black. "Captain, we've lost everything." The captain switched to backup systems. Dead. Radio, dead. Compass, spinning uncontrollably. They weren't just off course. They were nowhere. Outside the cockpit, no stars, No clouds, just pitch darkness. It was as if the world beyond the windows had been erased. The passenger returns. The attendant walked the aisle again, whispering prayers under her breath. Every light flickered faintly. And then she froze. Seat 14A was no longer empty. Someone was sitting there. A man, his skin pale, his uniform, an old Singapore Airlines one, outdated by decades. His head slowly turned toward her, his face expressionless. "Sir," she whispered, "are you all right?" The man leaned forward slightly, his lips trembling. "You're flying into their path." Before she could respond, the cabin lights went out completely. Darkness. Only the red glow of emergency lights remained. Chaos at altitude. Alarms screamed in the cockpit. Engine power dropping. Hydraulics failing. The captain fought the controls, but they felt heavier, as if something else was controlling them. The aircraft lurched violently downward, passengers crying and shouting in terror. Masks fell. Objects floated as gravity flickered. And then, through the overhead speakers, came whispers. Not one voice. Hundreds, layered, echoing. Whispering words no one could fully understand. "Too late. Turn back. You've crossed." The cockpit door slammed shut. The attendant pounded on it, screaming. Inside, the captain's face turned white as he saw his own reflection in the window, smiling back at him. Only it wasn't his smile. The mirror plane. The radar came back to life. One blip ahead. There, a signal. Both leaned forward. It wasn't a weather return. It was another aircraft. As they closed in, lightning flashed, revealing an identical Singapore Airlines plane flying parallel to them. Same model, same color, same tail number. It was Flight 319, their own flight. Through its windows, shadows stood still, staring back, pale, lifeless, their faces blurred, like frozen echoes. And in the cockpit of that twin plane, two silhouettes moved. The captain and co-pilot stared back at themselves. The message. Then the radio came alive again. "ATC, Flight 319, you read? You've disappeared from radar." The captain grabbed the mic. "This is Flight 319. We've lost navigation. He stopped. From the speaker, another voice, identical to his own, replied, "This is Flight 319. Everything's under control." The cockpit froze. "Captain," whispered the co-pilot, "that wasn't you." The ghostly plane outside began to flicker, pixelating into a haze of light and static before dissolving completely. The shaking stopped, the whispering faded, and suddenly everything went still. The return. At 3:19 a.m., radar operators in Singapore saw a familiar blip reappear, Flight 319, right above home airspace. Controllers were confused. The plane had been missing for nearly 47 minutes. They scrambled emergency crews to the runway. When the aircraft landed, it looked perfectly fine. No damage, no injuries, every passenger safe. But something was off. The passengers said they experienced only a few minutes of turbulence, not nearly an hour. No one remembered the darkness, the static, the voices. The captain and co-pilot, pale and silent, refused to speak to the press. The attendant resigned days later, refusing to ever fly again. The data recorder. Days later, investigators analyzed the flight data recorder. Everything looked normal, except for one strange transmission. A voice. Recorded automatically at 2:32 a.m. Voice. Flight 319 requesting permission to land, again. But at 2:32 a.m., the plane was already safely on the ground. There was no second transmission, no technical explanation. Only that single haunting word, again. The aftermath. The airline dismissed it as electrical interference. But among aviation circles, Flight 319 became whispered legend. Some say it crossed into a void, an air corridor where lost flights drift eternally. Others believe it was caught between overlapping realities, where echoes of past tragedies replay endlessly. And the most chilling theory, that the crew never came back, only their reflections did, because those who've seen the captain since say his eyes never blink. They say every night at exactly 3:19 a.m., radar stations near Singapore pick up a faint, flickering signal, labeled 319. It appears for 30 seconds, then vanishes. And pilots flying that route sometimes report seeing another plane, moving alongside them in the dark. Identical, silent. If you ever find yourself flying from Singapore to Hong Kong, and you feel the cabin grow colder, check the seat beside you. If 14A is empty, pray it stays that way. Subscribe for more terrifying aviation videos that will make you question what's real and what still haunts the skies above us. Turn on the bell before your next flight, because some journeys never end.